Hi, I'm Ashton Petta, and you've entered the kissing booth.
Welcome.
All right, welcome back. We are live
I'm
and I
excited.
know I'm ready to go. It's been a minute, but here we are back
Nevertheless,
again.
that's right. Power 52 is here. And we're excited to be here. We're just gonna welcome everyone in, like and share. That
Mhm.
that's the
Yes,
charge for
like,
tonight.
share, and comment. And
Oh,
also, like we used to do, put those kisses in the comments, put those hearts in the comments.
yes.
Let us know. And also let us know where you're watching from because we know we have gotten a
Oh,
broad reach. So let us know where you're watching from. So make
yes.
sure, like, share, comment, and
Yes.
all of that. We're back for season 4 of the
Oh
Kissing
my
Booth.
goodness,
Season
season
4.
4. That's
Yes.
unreal.
I know. It's time is going by.
Yes.
Time
So
is going.
if you haven't checked out season 1, 2, or 3,
Mm-hmm.
you can do so on our YouTube channel. And so that's at Power 52
Mm-hmm.
Official. And literally, we're on like all social media
Right.
platforms, and it's at Power 52 Official. So
Exactly.
again, like, share,
Right.
and drop those kisses right there in the chat.
Right. Yes. So, for those of you that might be tuning in for the first time, I just want to explain what Power 52 is. Power 52 is a nonprofit organization that owns and operates Maryland's first clean energy private career school. And we have a training program where we train individuals to begin careers in the solar and renewable energy industry. We have a 16-week program or 4 months, and it's a hybrid program, about 70% done online for 4 hours a day, and the other 30 or 20% you come in person to get the hands-on tools and take any examinations you need to. And then we have job placement assistance, where we bring in our employer partners and they interview our trainees, and many of them get hired and placed and working in those new careers after that process. And it's all at no cost for our Maryland
I
and
like that.
DC residents. So it's all at no cost. So we are actually recruiting now for that. So if you have
Yes.
anyone who might be interested between the ages of 18 and 50, tell them to give us a call at 410-777-9677, or go to our website at power52.org/training, and put in your information there, and we'll be sure to reach out to you because we're getting ready to be cohort 26.
Exactly.
um,
March 10th
March
is
10th.
the big day. You have time to get in, limited seating. So submit your application right away. And guess what? You didn't tell them credentials.
Oh, yes, I missed
Oh
that.
my
You get
goodness.
credentials and certifications that are recognized in the solar industry. So that puts you above the competition and gets you shovel ready for you to work right in the industry. So,
Yes.
yes,
And it's not just for guys, all
yes,
are welcome.
exactly. And like I always say, most times our ladies do a lot better than our
That's
men.
right.
They put
That's
them,
right.
give them a run for their money. So don't think it's just for the fellas.
And so, for those of you who don't know what the kissing booth is, I know you're intrigued. That's why you're here tonight. But the kissing booth, we used to have a dry, boring noise. It wasn't boring, but a newsletter. And everyone started doing newsletters, and they still do them. But we wanted to, have a more effective connection with the community. So, hey, we turned our newsletter, the Solar Sidebar, into Solar Sidebar Kissing Booth. And now, baby, it's just the kissing booth where we kiss the community with resources. So you never know who you're going to see here in the
Mhm.
booth. And if you have anyone who you may want to hear from, drop us a note. Let us
Mhm.
know, and we'll definitely bring the person on so that we could talk about what it is that you want to learn about so that we can share these resources with the community. So, which leads me to
Right. So we have our first guest of the season. We have Ashton Petta here with us. She is the manager of the Office of Human Trafficking Prevention for the Howard County government. And she leads strategic efforts to combat human trafficking and ensure holistic support for survivors and individuals who have lived through these terrible experiences. And with extensive experience in addressing domestic violence, intimate partner violence, and sexual assault, Ashton has worked to strengthen service delivery, advance best practices, enhance referral systems, and advocate for survivor empowerment. And we're going to hear a lot more about all that she does and has accomplished in this area. So, Ashton, welcome.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Welcome
Thanks
to
for
the
having
Kissing
me.
Booth.
Yes. And so before we jump into this topic, which I'm super excited about, I know it sounds weird to be excited about it, but I'm excited to share all of your knowledge with our viewers. But before that, we gotta talk about some foolishness.
Get a little bit of our hot topics in there.
Exactly. So, are diamonds losing their sparkle? Do you think diamonds are losing their sparkle? Well, according to a recent article published by the Guardian, the prices of diamonds are dropping rapidly with no signs of stopping. I'm here for that.
Oh,
I'm
right.
here for a sale, baby. Natural diamonds are 26% cheaper. Now, y'all know if y'all hear 25% off, it's going to raise the eye. But 26% cheaper than prices in 2023. And lab grown diamonds are currently, watch this, 74% cheaper than its prices in 2020. 74. Okay, that's a sale.
Mhm.
So there was a large post-pandemic boom resulting in a high demand for luxury items. Part of this was due to wedding rescheduling because of the COVID pandemic. Now it has been mentioned that two major reasons for the decline in diamonds and the diamond demands are there is a decline in marriages.
Oh.
Hold on.
Yikes.
I want to explore that a little bit.
Okay.
Okay, because
Okay.
I have some staff members here that I am looking. I have not been to. You've been to a wedding?
Oh,
Re-
I've been to a few. I've been in many.
Oh,
So,
really?
yeah,
Recently?
I've well, I think last year might have been the first year. I guess was like an off year for me, but I've been to 10 weddings before.
Get
Oh,
out!
man.
Oh
Yeah, I
my
know.
goodness!
Yeah.
Well, I am looking to attend a wedding. Okay, and there's so many people that surround me on the daily.
You look right
Okay.
into it. Don't look in.
Okay, and there's people in this room that's trying to hold their laughter, but you know who you are. I'm looking for some vows, some nuptials. Okay.
Man.
Also, they say lab grown diamonds are oversaturating the market. Now, I don't know. I think I want natural, but it's what
Well,
do you
they say
think?
I don't know. It depends because the like they're saying the natural diamonds. The reason why it was a demand to have the lab grown diamonds is because the natural diamonds take billions of years to form.
Mhm.
Where now they've gotten so advanced with technology with the lab grown diamonds, all it takes is a few hours to grow them. So
What? Oh,
and
wow.
that depends on it's not particular size, so they
Mhm.
can grow like a larger carrot size.
Uh-oh. Do you hear that?
A larger carrot
Sorry.
size if in a matter of hours where
Wow.
you might have to wait several lifetimes
Yeah.
for you
To
to
get the
that.
natural ones.
Right.
But
So,
I just want to ask this question. What's up with not proposing? Can I
know.
get some of the messages
Exactly.
in the
Let's see
chat?
what are the
What
comments
is going
saying?
on with people not proposing and then people not accepting
Somebody
me many
said,
times?
let me go on over to Zales. Oh man. Okay. Let's see what else are people saying. Let me hurry up. Oh yeah, hurry up and get there. So this is what some folks have been saying. I saw an article from a wedding planner, and she says weddings have declined in the post-pandemic era, stating that in 2024 there's been reported that wedding bookings have decreased 40 to 50% compared to its pre-pandemic standards.
Mhm.
So she was saying that there's multiple factors to contribute to that decline. So
Okay.
one thing I know we're all familiar with, and this probably impacts us in several areas of our lives, is that she says that job insecurity, economic inflation, and rising living costs is one reason where many couples have reevaluated having traditional weddings
Mhm.
due to the prices of tuxedos, weddings, and the jewelry, and venues being at
And
higher
they're
prices.
overpriced.
Right,
Definitely.
right. So
Yeah. And
inflation.
and I think people are having these micro weddings,
Yeah.
which are really nice. I know my sister always says, you know what, give me the ring and the party.
Yeah.
Right.
You know.
It's nice. Yeah. I have a few friends that eloped. So they've
Oh.
gone, if it's abroad or just some kind of ceremony, it was just maybe them and the officiant, and they came back and
Mhm.
had like a
Um,
nice like a dinner party with like their closest friends.
Oh.
Mhm.
So you get that celebration, you get that intimacy, but
Yeah.
it's also just them.
Yeah,
Like one of
just
my
Right.
friends, they're able to go to Portugal. It was like really affordable to go at that
Ooh.
time. They just had a wonderful vacation. And they
Uh-huh.
came back. We were all able to celebrate. But yeah, and like
Oh
And
micro
that
weddings,
was
yeah.
the
those
second
people.
point is what that the changes in cultural and social standards are changing, where the millennials and Gen Zs, or the primary age groups that are getting married right
Mhm.
now, that they are prioritizing having smaller weddings because we don't value as much material things over more experience.
Experiences.
So that goes right to it.
There you go.
People
Oh
I'd
wow.
rather go to Portugal rather
Yeah.
than
Yeah, and
having spending all this money to have people,
Exactly.
the venue and then the reception and all of that.
That's a good
So they've
point.
been having, more smaller, budget friendly ceremonies.
Mhm.
And also another thing, because we're in this post pandemic age, is
Okay.
the impact of technology. So
Okay.
people are doing weddings, having virtual ceremonies
Oh.
rather than,
Oh, okay.
having
Your
everybody come out. So
traditional
if you have
oh.
your family, you have a large family, and people are all over the country, all over the world,
Mhm.
tune in on Zoom, and or I've even saw recent. Well, I believe last year I saw a wedding. They streamed it on Facebook Live.
Really?
So
Oh
they're
wow.
doing virtual ceremonies. So
Well,
that's
I think
another
people
option.
are just loving technology.
Right.
Just like I found out that so many people are in love with TikTok.
Right. Right. But I think there might be some other factors. We try to put all the economic or those type of concerns, but I think Gen Z. I'm a Gen Z, so I think we might be a little afraid of commitment too. That
Uh-oh.
might be it too. That might be a little problem that they might want to
Uh-huh.
go that far, and
Oh my
sometimes
goodness.
you can get why that mindset of the old saying, why buy the cow if you can get the milk for
Oh,
free?
Oh,
oh,
That's what people say. That's
they
what
do.
Gen Z. I have to admit, the Gen Z and coming right after the millennials, have to put the millennials in hot water
Oh
too.
my goodness. Oh
They
my goodness.
I guess living a little bit more on the wilder side, or less
Conservative or
more
traditional.
liberal,
I think
traditional
more
liberal.
liberal.
I think traditional. I think
Yeah.
realizing what is important to them. So if it's a smaller wedding, like I don't want to invite everyone that I know,
Yeah.
my family knows, but the people that are closest to me,
Exactly.
especially with things getting expensive, if they have to
Exactly.
if they pay for it for themselves. So
That's what, yeah,
Mhm.
and well, you know what? Pay for okay, and we're not going to be a dead horse,
Yeah.
but I literally saw something on Facebook where the bride and groom charged the guests, every guest,
Oh.
like $300,
Oh.
and then gave them this whole experience.
Oh,
But they
okay.
had to pay to come to the
Hmm.
wedding, and then I mean, they did like just all these different things
Mhm.
throughout the course of the day, like a tour of New York, and it was just a
Oh,
whole
okay.
bunch
So it's
of
going towards
stuff.
the experience. It's
Yeah,
not just to
Okay.
go because you showed up. Because like
Exactly. No,
when you said that, I was
yeah.
like, well, was the food good? At
Right.
least, right? Like, oh my,
Yeah.
you're paying for that money, and I'm like, all right,
Right.
but
Right. But that was interesting.
Right. And so
Yeah.
back to what you were saying about TikTok, let's talk about TikTok's brief hiatus and its return. So we all heard about, TikTok's ban that happened on January 19th. And I know for myself, many people's accounts started going dark on the evening of the 18th. I remember
They had funerals.
they were all over TikTok doing funerals and preaching eulogies for TikTok and everything. But I know for me, I was out for dinner trying to celebrate my birthday, and I got a message that popped up. Pretty much, we're getting ready to shut it down. I was like, oh gosh, no.
I got to my last scrolling. Like,
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Let me hurry up and like stuff.
Yeah.
But it went dark and went black pretty much, despite President Biden saying that he wasn't going to enforce the ban because it was the last day of his presidency. He said, I'm going to let President Trump handle that. And after President Trump was inaugurated, and he signed the executive order extending the deadline for 75 days to find an American buyer. TikTok resurrected. A lot of people were happy to be with a
Oh
few hours
yeah.
without TikTok, but many people are saying that TikTok is not the same
It's not
since
talking.
right. So people are
It's not
saying that
taking
having
It's not talking.
right. So after having so much access on TikTok, because they really don't have they do have censorship, but I think information wise there was so much different type of access of information. Some people are saying that the government shut it down so they could limit stuff. So people have even seen that
The algorithm.
the algorithms are different. Like people aren't seeing, like, if you want to be political, they showed someone from a different country, I believe it was Australia, go through their TikTok timeline, and we're seeing more and more protests that were happening because of the American ban on TikTok that was
Wow.
going on in the country and around the world that is not showing up in our algorithm. So people are starting to say, did they shut it down to change some things?
Probably.
So,
But nevertheless, it survived. Okay,
right,
it resurrected.
right.
And it's still here for
It's
now.
still here, so we shall see. But
But
technology is still technology.
yes. And so, which leads me to, I think, one of my last topics, AI. Okay.
Yeah.
I love AI. Oh my goodness. I really do. And being a nonprofit, it literally helps us do our job because, the capacity is low. But I saw this story where these two students, okay, the meta glasses. Well, you can see everything and go on Google and all that with the meta glasses. Well, basically, two Harvard students used the Meta Ray-Ban smart glasses coupled with several software and AI programs to assess strangers' pertinent information as they walk by. So
My
they
gosh.
have the glasses on.
Yeah.
You have to see the story. They have the glasses on, and just say a young lady walks up and is like, that's Kimberly from Southeast Manhattan, and she goes to blah 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 school.
Oh wow.
And
This is her
just
address.
this is
her
her
phone
address
number.
and everything. And
Mhm.
so the pair used the glasses, built-in camera, facial recognition software, and image reverse search engine, and got all this information. That's scary.
That is
And
that's terrifying.
it's
That's
terrifying.
scary. That is scary.
And
Like,
so, basically, but they said that this experiment was to raise questions and awareness regarding privacy, cybersecurity, and artificial intelligence, period. And so they did it to say, listen, this could be a big breach of data, or it's just not safe, which definitely this topic leads me to what we're going to discuss soon. So you know what?
so they did it like a warning, really.
Yeah,
to
they
people,
did it
like a
like a-
public, like an outcry, or kind of like a PSA. That's what I was thinking of.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah,
And so
okay.
I thought that was very interesting, but you never know what's next.
Right.
Know.
'Cause I think
But
there could, even though I would be a little leery, but I think it could be a lot of benefits on a larger scale that we can probably get into. That if though that type of software did go out with the glasses, there could be a lot of benefits to help.
like catching criminals.
Catching criminals, and like I said, there's a missing person, and you might see them around or something, and they're walking by capturing. You're like, oh, that person's missing from X, Y, and Z. Why are they in ABC?
But it's so
scary. It's always pros and cons. But
yeah.
this
But
is the world we
nevertheless,
live, right?
nevertheless, let's get into this show.
All righty. So again, we have Ashton Petta here with us, and January is National Human Trafficking Prevention Month. So we have probably an expert on this topic on human trafficking and all of that. So Ashton, tell us a little bit about yourself and how your career began.
Yeah, well, thank you for having me.
Yes,
So I'm not originally from kind of the DMV area. I'm originally from South Carolina. So I have my background in social work. So I've got my undergrad and graduate school in social work from South Carolina. And always kind of started with kind of a passion for justice, wanting to speak up, speak for, assist, help people when it comes to various social justice issues. I started in this space when I worked and I had an internship there as well, the South Carolina Coalition Against Domestic Violence and Sexual Assault. Every state has, whether it's a dual coalition or separate ones, so there are resources available for those issues. And we had a working group that assisted with human trafficking specific services. And that's really what kind of brought me into this space, and just really kind of, opened my eyes and just kind of realized that this is where I want to be. And so I was there for a little bit, then moved up to DC, where like change happens, want to be where everything is there,
Right.
and I worked on the hotline, the national hotline, for almost 6 years before I found my home in Howard County with Howard County government. So
Oh, very
so I'm
good.
here now, and it's great.
Yeah. So, what keeps you motivated to want to do the work?
That's a really good question. I think for folks in helping professions, burnout's real. It's something that can be really exhausting and it's tiring. But when you have the wins, when you see progress being made, when you're able to help and assist, serve, it's kind of like that's really what keeps you going. And it's just kind of what fuels you a bit of when you're seeing justice initiatives being made, you're seeing issues, people believing, strengthening, listening, helping. That's what keeps me going.
Awesome. So, what is the biggest misconception about trafficking, sex trafficking?
Yeah. So, well, there's a few, but I think the biggest one I would say is people don't think that human trafficking happens in their community, in their county, in their city, in
Definitely
their
not Howard
state.
County.
Right. Right. Well, people, yeah, it can't happen here because we have resources. We have a great school system. We have a really maybe well-educated community, a community that's pretty affluent. But it does happen everywhere. But wanting to kind of build that out, like while it does happen everywhere, there's certain vulnerabilities, and I'm sure we'll talk about this in a little bit. But I think this idea that, oh, it's not me, it's over there. It's kind of an other place where it doesn't happen in America, it happens over there. It doesn't happen in my community, it happens over there, and that's just not the case.
I believe that.
Right.
I think a lot of guys would think. I think for me, a lot of guys would think, "Oh no, not me," and then maybe people 40 and over, "No, not me." But
Yeah.
what do you find that the most vulnerable population is?
So that's a really good question. So how I kind of frame it is anyone who historically has been disenfranchised, who falls through the cracks, who kind of society is not looking out for. So you have runaway youths, people that may be trans, non-binary. You have indigenous girls that go missing, they run away. You have youth that are experiencing, or they're in the foster care system, and so, they might be labeled, all right, a runaway. This happens a lot. We're just not going to look for them, or we just don't see them. There's a deep historical racist element to it as well. So we're going to see different people that look a certain way in certain industries. So we see someone working and harvesting vegetables, produce, all of that. We're like, well, that's just normal. So we're not going to pay attention to maybe some red flags or indicators of, do they have breaks? Do they have access to clean water? Why are they there like long times? Why does it seem like that they are taken to and from for the
Right.
location? Kind of the red flags that we would maybe recognize if that was maybe someone that we could see ourselves in. So really anyone that is kind of pushed through the cracks, and they're more likely to be vulnerable to exploitation. So
Okay.
also substance use, who's not going to be believed if they come forward or if they said that they need help. And again, you mentioned too, like for men, people think, oh, this just happens to women and girls. And while that is the case, and it's overrepresented, this does happen to boys. This does happen to men. This does happen to older adults as well. So if someone comes forward, it's always difficult already to come forward if you're assaulted, but for men, it's much harder. So if thinking, oh, well, how could that happen to you? Why didn't you fight back? Or you're strong, you're tall. This doesn't make sense. That's like a barrier that they really experience. So kind of anyone who's sort of othered, really.
Right. I
Mm.
think that's a good point you made, because I think a lot of people, when we think about sex trafficking or just human trafficking, we don't think that men or boys are involved. And I know
Mm-hmm.
I've heard recently that there has been, well, I guess maybe a awareness. I'm not sure if it's really an increase, but on the young men or boys
Mm-hmm.
being trafficked or going missing because of human trafficking or sex trafficking. And I think that's something we should all be maybe paying a little bit more attention, or in general, pay
Mhm.
more attention
Yeah.
to. Just sex trafficking, human trafficking, period, but also for young men, and educate our young men to let them know you're not exempt from,
Mhm.
certain
Mm-hmm.
things that I think, especially in different, communities and things, you think that you're exempt from,
Oh
or
yeah.
Yeah, like this
that
couldn't
can't
happen to
happen to you.
me, right?
Right,
Mhm.
right.
Mm-hmm.
So I think, yeah, that was a
Mhm.
great point.
Yeah.
So package it up for me. Like what when you say trafficking, like illustrate to me and the viewers
Mhm.
what a scenario could be.
Okay. Yeah.
So a person's walking down the street, or I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah. So when we think of you hear human trafficking,
Mhm.
so it's sex and labor trafficking. So someone essentially using force, fraud, or coercion to make you do something that you don't want to do for money, for drugs, for shelter, for food, for whatever. So we see it a lot in like intimate partners. So the idea that you're going to be abducted, that's also kind of a big misconception. Now we know that
Oh,
some of those
see.
cases it does happen. However, it's really risky. Traffickers understand the system. They're kind of one or two steps ahead of the game. So why would they abduct someone that someone's going to go looking for them? That it's broad daylight. There's or whichever. So they're going to kind of target, groom someone who they know they can essentially start to exploit and work on it. So if
Mm.
they, so traffickers will kind of take a need that someone might need. So if that is belonging, if that is a romantic partner, if that's a job, and they will then make sure that they're the only person that can supply that need. So yeah. So to answer your question, we see it happening like romantic partners. So
Mm.
someone starts dating someone, but then hey, like I love you like you love me, but I need you to maybe kind of go out on this track because we got to get money for xyz
Mhm.
things.
Mm.
We see a lot of people who are undocumented or people who are immigrants. They could be defrauded by an offer of a new life, of a new job. Come to America, I've got this job set up
Mm.
for you, or we've got a situation set up where you can go to school, and then they're maybe taken and forced to work in a massage
Mhm.
parlor. They're forced to work in maybe a small business, and it's a very different reality than what they were expecting.
Really?
Mhm.
See, that I'm learning a lot. Because I think I'm one of the people who thought that, hey, my daughter could be walking down the street and someone's going to snatch her and like,
Mhm.
Right.
hey, now I'm putting you into this. But you're saying, it kind of reminds me of when they say if you are molested when you're young, it's usually like an uncle or a family friend or someone
Mhm.
that you know. So all of that kind of just goes hand in hand. Oh
Yeah,
my
no,
goodness.
you're
Mhm.
absolutely right, and I really appreciate you saying that
Mm.
because, especially when it comes to kids, when it comes to children who are in labor and sex trafficking situations, it's most times rather than not a family member or someone that they know,
Mhm.
and
Right.
that's really that goes kind of really into almost all types of situations. So
Mm.
if it's a relative, if it's a romantic partner, if it's if it's a recruiter, if it's a boss, so there's going to be some type of knowledge and some type of relationship there.
Mm. Oh my goodness.
And
That
and
has
you
me
just wouldn't,
floored.
and I know for me too, you just
Yeah.
wouldn't think like I get, well, you just sometimes you think, oh, of course not your family members, but
Right.
Right.
but I
Yeah.
guess that's when you get into, they have that information, that certain the things to maybe control you or hang over you
Mhm.
to.
Oh,
Yeah.
and then too, the way that these molesters or traffickers will say, "Oh no, not Jim. He would
Oh,
never
right,
do that."
right.
Or
Mhm.
Mhm.
why would
Yeah.
Frida still be cool with Jim? I mean,
Right.
Yeah.
and
Right.
so then, it's I mean, you see the TV shows, the victim, sometimes they're villainized,
Oh,
so
always.
yeah,
Yeah,
and
they're
so
blamed,
that
they're
right.
shamed, and what's sad is a lot of survivors will feel like, well, I wasn't a victim because I chose this. Like
Mhm.
I was, coerced. Again, a lot of this through abuse, it's not always physical.
Mhm.
You're using your romantic relationship in an emotional, mental, abusive, coercive way, but thinking, well, no one forced me. I wasn't physically told to do this. So like I'm not really a victim. And that there's a lot of that shame, which is awful.
Mhm.
But so there, not only is it something like kind of recognizing that kind of within yourself of that it did happen to you and it should have happened to you, but again, we know that abusers are manipulative, we know
Oh,
that they will make sure that they're charming, that they will kind of have a community around them that will be like, oh, there's no way, like give them the benefit of the doubt. And
Mhm.
yeah, you see that all
Oh
the time.
my goodness.
Yeah, this is good. This is a
Yeah,
good
Heavy
this
stuff,
is
I
good.
know. It's
Yeah,
always,
This is good
yeah,
conversation.
it is.
This really makes you thinking like it's I think sometimes when we hear stuff like I mentioned earlier, it seems it's so far away, but hearing it in this context is like, oh shucks, it's
Yeah, it's
right. It
right
can be
here.
just very
Yeah, so just like my daughter, she's 18. She's in college now. And so she will say to me like, "Oh my goodness, mommy, I'm always watching my surroundings because I would be the target." And so she just feels like, a young girl or way in college or whatever, that she could be targeted. But now hearing what you're saying, it could be anyone.
It could be, and I think it's always you want to be aware of your surroundings, keep yourself
Yeah.
safe, in situations. But to definitively say, oh, this will definitely lead to trafficking, that's probably not what's gonna happen.
Mhm.
But oh yeah, keep yourself safe. But to know that they kind of wonder, how do I keep myself safe? How do I prevent myself from kind of getting into this situation? And it's really knowing what healthy relationships look like,
Mhm.
educating yourself on job offers that maybe overpromise or give you like if it
Mhm.
sounds if it sounds too good to be
true.
true, it most likely is.
right.
But
Uh-huh.
but again, like it's just to kind of be just to be aware and to
Yeah.
know and to
Mhm.
question and to have trusting relationships. So if she sees an advertisement or she's approached about, hey, we've got this great job where you can travel around and where this is a family and this is really great and we're offering all this money, and but she's like, what's that gut feeling, that she can come to you and say, hey, what is this? And you're
Mhm.
like, don't do it. That's not,
Mhm.
or there's no way that this is real, or let's
Mhm.
call, let's ask questions, let's
Right.
kind of push and get information, and you'll find
Mhm.
that it will start to kind of reveal itself too, where you're like, yeah, this isn't
So
legit.
so I'm curious to know, in the age of swipe left.
Okay.
Is it left or right?
Whatever
It
direction.
is.
Whatever
Swipe,
whatever
just
you
swipe,
do.
whatever
Yeah.
you're doing, right or
Yeah.
left. Babe, I don't know nothing about it.
If he's watching.
If he's- but what are the signs? I know because you've said it multiple times, like romantic relationships.
Mhm.
So you swipe and then you go out on a date and then you like the person and all of that. Well, I mean, what am I looking for?
Yeah. So, we can give a few examples. So I think, so for like a romantic partner, one, if you get that kind of gut feeling that something feels off, it probably is. So that's always one. Trust your gut, trust your kind of intuition. But kind of like with any, romantic partner is, wanting to kind of go at your own like speed, your own time. If things that are, again, if they're over promising things, we've probably all heard love bombing,
Mm.
but kind of knowing when you're potentially being either manipulated, or if they're isolating you from your friends, from your community, from your support system. So I tell, like, when I was working on the hotline, and I've had mothers, parents call about their daughters maybe being in a essentially like a sketchy kind of relationship where they don't know. And I say, all right, they're an adult. So there's certain things, they're not 16 anymore. There's certain things that you can and can't do as a parent, but I'm like, let that person know that their daughter is loved. Let them know they are, like, they will be missed. They are supported. So they know, like, you can't pull this one. I mean, like, I will call, I will come after, like, not like, well, all right, don't say come after, don't quote me on that. But
Right.
like, as
Yeah,
in
I
like,
know
oh,
what
if you
you
take her
mean.
away, like, all right, well, I'm gonna come visit.
Yeah.
Or
Right.
so it really is making sure that you have that trusting relationship with your child for that one in particular, but also for yourself to don't do anything that you're uncomfortable with. And people that love you and respect you won't push you, won't pressure you. They won't put you in situations that would ever make you question your own values and
Mhm.
your own character of what you believe in. And, kind of from there, like that kind of goes into the romantic, partnership kind of situation. When it comes to, say, maybe school age kids, teenagers, if you're an educator, you're in the education system, we see where a lot of kids are showing up really exhausted. They're sleeping. If it's like a labor trafficking situation, there's truancy issues. They're not showing up, or when they do, again, they're really hungry. And there's going to be kind of the physical marks of abuse if that's happening as well. But kind of going also into maybe more high school, middle school, high school, if all of a sudden they start coming in with new shoes, new phone, jewelry, kind of luxury items, that's like, where did this come from? Or they have a lot of cash. Most likely kind of what's happening there, again, after you talk, you see what's going on at home, if you have a good relationship with your school counselor, your school social worker, but are they potentially at risk of being groomed? So we see where traffickers will groom, and wanting to be very clear about what grooming is and what it isn't. It's essentially, kind of that love bombing of like, I'm buying you nice things. And again, if you're a teenager in high school, like, y'all love the nice things, all things that are sparkly, new, fun, great. And they'll start promising things, and they'll start just giving you everything that you've ever wanted. And then when you're 18, then generally things kind of switch. And then they're asking you then to do things and to work and to, maybe start posting photos online, and then you can get money and all of this. And like, I gave you all of this, and this is something you have to do for me. And, we're in a relationship, and they know that with the laws, if you're 18, that's very different than when you're under the age of 18. So the federal law defines sex trafficking, anyone who's coerced to engage in commercial sex, but in there, that element of force, fraud, coercion. But for children, that does not have to happen. A child cannot consent to commercial sex, like federally recognized. So a lot of times they may know that. And if they know like, all right, so now when you're of age, things can be a little bit different. But yeah, so, and for labor trafficking, that's kind of a whole thing too about, do they have access to their documents? Are there a lot of contract violations? We see where there's a lot of sometimes blending of various projects, say construction, for example. A lot of that work is contracted out. So you've got, you've got the main project, say you're building a building, and, your site supervisors, maybe like that company might be hiring out work for various things. Sometimes it could be a blended environment where there's different companies working on the same project, same stuff, whatever their skills are. I say this respectfully. I'm not a construction worker, so I'm trying to say things.
Right.
But if you hear like, oh, like I am paid by like the projects that I do, or if you're in agriculture, by like the buckets, but I should actually be paid by the hour. If they like, oh, well, they said they have my passport and my work ID because they said they're going to keep it safe for me. And you're like, oh, no, that's actually really scary, because we know that a lot of times employers will, they'll withhold documents, use threats of deportation. And a lot of times they'll purposely allow their employees' visa to expire, thus making them undocumented, which puts them more at risk and more vulnerable to obviously deportation, but to exploitation. Then they're afraid to come forward and to report, say, hey, this is what's happening. So that's, it looks different. Kind of the indicators look a bit different across sort of, if you're looking labor, sex. Yeah.
So, so the term trafficking, because just the more the deeper you go into it, is this, and I hate to say it like this, but the old school, like pimps and hoes type of thing. Oh, okay.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Oh,
And some
okay.
people use those terms, and like,
okay.
and so essentially in, modern day slavery, that's kind of what people know. And human trafficking, it's words change and they change meanings. And sometimes it doesn't change meaning over time, but modern day slavery, that's really what's happening.
Yeah, because I think that, again, we see TV shows and, and so you have this thing, like, oh my goodness, they're snatching the girls and now they're all in, a room and,
like kept in cages or something,
kept in
that
cages.
kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Right?
And so, and so we just want to myth bust, like,
I'm here for it.
Yeah. So that people know and understand what to look out for, how to prevent it, and all those types of things. So is it prevalent in Howard County?
So, I mean, like I said before, it is. So, depending on various industries, and, it's, when we say prevalent, it's just that there's no county, city, state where this doesn't happen.
Mm.
And so, you have various areas, industry, it happens in high affluent societies and areas, communities as well. It happens in places where it is maybe more low income or middle class. It just presents itself differently depending on what type of business is there, what type of work is required. And obviously, again, the other, like I say, kind of the third place is online. Sometimes, there was an old kind of belief that you needed movement in order for trafficking to happen. So like, taking girls here and going there. And there's sometimes where that is the case. A lot of times it could just be, you could be in your room and you don't have to go anywhere. Or sometimes buyers will come to you. So it doesn't fit in a certain box. While we know it does happen in Howard County, there's a lot of great resources that are working to prevent it, that are assisting and directly serving survivors. So we have, my office that was, put in place in 2017. We I haven't been here since 2017, but we work directly with law enforcement. We do have a trafficking and narcotics unit. Our law enforcement is trained in types of situations like this, which is really important when it comes to response. We have Turnaround. That's our direct kind of partner and provider when it comes to human trafficking specific services. And we also have our, this is a long word, but our Human Trafficking Prevention and Coordination Council. It's basically our task force.
Okay.
We have, DCRS, Department of Community Resources and Services, on the council. We have Grassroots, which is the homeless shelter and deal with unsheltered. Yeah, and they're wonderful. We have Turnaround. We have Hope Works, and they're a wonderful agency that assists with domestic violence and partner violence. And we have DSS, we have the health department, we have the state's attorney's office. So it's bringing a lot of stakeholders, a lot of leaders together. And that's where we kind of hash it out. We're like, all right, what needs to happen? What needs to change? What are we working on now? Like what's going on in your fields, and, what investigations are happening? What are some convictions we're seeing, or where are the gaps in services? So they're doing a lot of good work.
Oh, that's good. And so how do you guys get the word out to the students? Are you doing fairs in the high schools and middle schools? Or
so I'm excited to say too that myself, we've got Turnaround, and then Howard County Police Department. We're giving a presentation to Howard County Public School Systems, but specifically for the staff that is like student service staff. I believe I'm saying that correctly, but you've got your counselors, your school psychologists, your school social workers, and we're excited to give a presentation, kind of like an HT 101. We're always, always, always wanting more connections within the school system. So, anyone that's wishing for us to come in and give a presentation, to speak to students, staff, teachers, training, we are so here for it. And there's a lot on teachers' plates. There's a lot on administrators' plates. There's so many trainings that teachers, counselors, everyone, they get a lot of it. So we understand that, we recognize it, but we really want them to know that we're here to help.
That's good. So I hear you saying teachers, staff, the kids, but what about the parents? How are you guys engaging the parents? When does a parent know when to get involved? Because teenagers, I have 3 of them. They're all over the place, right? So it's just, and a lot of times you want to be respectful, but then, I guess the old cliche is that, if I get involved, then they'll run to the person, the boy I don't like.
Yeah.
So when does a parent get involved? What are those signs that, hey, you know what, I'm getting involved and I need to call this hotline? Or,
well, any of the we can make sure we've got numbers we can list. So anyone can call me, anyone can call Turnaround, anyone can call the hotline and have a good conversation about, I'm kind of seeing some red flags, or I'm concerned, I'm worried, or is this what I'm seeing? Is this trafficking, or is this something else? And making sure they're then connected to the right resources, all of that. You want to make sure that your kids are safe. I think, we mentioned before about making sure you have a trusting relationship. And sometimes too, and I get it, like your gut reaction is, I'm taking your phone, I'm taking your keys. Like, I'm going to see you. You're not going to go anywhere. Again, you want to keep them safe. That the intent is wonderful. However, that is quite dangerous, because teenagers, they don't, they're going to rebel, or they're going to say, no, I'm like more upset, and that's going to push them into the arms of someone who might not be safe. So while it is difficult, but making sure, you always want to make sure they have their phone or a way to
Right.
communicate with you. You don't want to take away their mobility because, or their way to get to, like, from here and there, because what if this person has a car and now they can't leave and they can't get away, or they, whatever the case. And not in a sense of where it's like an abduction or kidnapping, but like, they're
Now they're
hanging out
dependent
somewhere
on
else, and
this
now they're
person.
dependent. Yeah, you never want to make them dependent on something. So I would definitely, call the resources there, ask questions. There's there's a bunch of free training online, which is great. We'll make sure you got that information too. So that's wonderful that they're really within the anti-trafficking field. They're really passionate about making sure individuals, agencies, organizations have access to free training. So if you've got questions, here you go. This is kind of what you can do. And there are resources for parents as well, whether this is something that did happen to your child, or you're worried that maybe there's some red flags, or just, I also want to educate my child to be safe. So there's some resources there for sure.
That's awesome.
Right. And so one question, I know you mentioned the survivors, and so because kind of seeing they've gone through everything. So what's some of their biggest challenges? Because of course, like, even if you want to, I'm not sure if there's a correlation, but even if you take people who maybe have had an addiction, they might be wanting to go back to that. But what are some of the biggest challenges that they face coming out of those lifestyles and things?
Yeah, and like kind of getting out of that.
Right.
Life.
And then also with some resource. Oh, I know you mentioned, a few resources, but what is just how we could probably, or anyone, support them after they've come out of that type of lifestyle?
Yeah, that's a wonderful question. It's so important. One, to always make sure that, just in general, that survivors and people with lived experience are involved in anti-trafficking work, because obviously they're the experts. They can explain, they can share, like, this is what it's really like, versus someone who, I'm here in allyship. I'm not a survivor. So there's going to be some things that I will have no idea what that feels like. So to make sure that they're in these spaces, but a lot of times, housing is a huge one. We're dealing with a housing crisis. Housing is hard to be affordable for anyone and everyone, but especially when it comes to people who don't have any money, or, and that's kind of the thing, when it comes to survivors, is that they're working, they're not getting the money. So housing is a huge one. Like safe and kind of sustainable housing too. So is the program long term? Some service providers, they can only have emergency shelter or 3 to 6 months, but it takes a lot. I think of like the trauma of what happened to you. It could take a while to kind of stabilize and to kind of recenter yourself. But you mentioned too with any substance use. So if someone needs to become sober in order to receive services, there's a lot of intersecting issues. So you have a history of complex trauma for the most part. If you're dealing with substance use and needing to get sober, and then sometimes there's the requirements in different shelters that you're in, where either you have to be a certain gender, you have to be sober, you have to be a certain age, or they don't allow kids, they don't allow pets. So that's when you're just kind of entering care. And then I so appreciate what you said too about, a lot of times survivors, and we see this with intimate partner violence, they'll return, they'll go back. There can be a lot of back and forth, and then for providers to not judge, to not place judgment, to know if it was an intimate partner, someone that you do love, someone that maybe, parent of your kids, or they may be someone that you've been with for years. And it's hard to get away from that. Those emotions don't always just stop. Or in the sense of, if they are dealing with substance use, addiction is so powerful. And, that's obviously a way that some people kind of return back, or just like, and a big one is shelter. They're like, well, I'm about to be out of shelter. I'm about to be kicked out. So I'm either going to be on the streets, or I could be here with this person, and at least I'll be safe, or at least I will be, out of the elements, or whichever. Or in some cases too, they'll be like, well, I had like some stability, I had some money, I had a place, I got food. So it kind of goes into survival, where, what are the options there? What do I have here? And so it can be a cycle, but just constantly showing up and being there. And when they're ready to leave, that providers are ready to take them.
Wow. And so,
Mhm.
how can average people, get involved?
Yeah.
I know, with us, we're always looking for volunteers, volunteers, volunteers.
Yeah.
And people will just ask us, how can they get involved?
Hmm.
So, how can, if we have people who want, after seeing this show, want to get involved,
Hmm.
what should they do?
Yeah. Well, there is also a lot of volunteer opportunities.
Mhm.
So contacting, Turnaround, Hope Works, and also the council that we have. It's open. Anyone can attend. Anyone can, we meet like every other month. It's in the middle, smack dab in the middle of the day. It's from 1 to 3, but anyone is welcome to come. We post our minutes. So it's clear like kind of what we're talking about. So you can absolutely volunteer your time. I would say a really big help is when the community is educated, is when they
Mm.
take the trainings, um, they understand what it is, what it isn't, because then they start also then to break down stigma.
Mhm.
So we're talking about who's most vulnerable, knowing that, hey, at least I can show up for this person, or at least I can, you know, show up for this cause, donate money if you can donate money to certain like organizations that directly assist with certain vulnerabilities. That means a lot. And to know like, hey, I get, when I get a call and they're like, I had some questions, I don't really know what I'm seeing, I don't want to, and in some cases, you know immediately calling law enforcement might not be the best decision, or
Mhm.
maybe they need the time to respond themselves, or they're not ready for law enforcement, or they're not ready for a service provider, but they're like, hey, here's some information, here's a number you can call if you need help, or just in that kind of way. But when they've called and like we'll work it out of like, yeah, actually this sounds like a situation um you know where maybe they might need some help. So if there's a way to get the hotline number to them in a safe way, or we just know if there is an area where it's happening, like, all right, so we're going to go in, so
Mhm.
to put up some flyers, put up some information, find ways to like, so that maybe if it's not always safe to give someone a phone number, but we're like, all right, we can put a flyer in some windows. We can
Right.
drop off some things for someone, or maybe if there's like a convenience store of, hey, if you see some of these people, maybe give them some Know Your Rights campaign stuff, whatever.
Mhm.
So that's a huge help. It really is, because we're talking about TikTok
Thank
before.
Right.
So there's a lot of, and again, I understand it all comes from a place of people want to help, they want to know, but it's a something can go viral in an instant. And sometimes
Yes.
the wrong things go viral. So
Right.
misinformation.
Mhm.
So, some people for a while, and again, I'm not blaming this, but there was a kind of a viral moment a few years ago where people would see painter vans with locks on it. And they're like,
Mm.
oh, that's a sign of trafficking. Someone's locked in the van
Mm.
and they need help. So they were, calling the hall, and they're calling law enforcement. And,
Mm.
and we know in situations where they're, some people are transported to and from a work site, whichever, but just seeing that alone, you're like, all right, let's just pause. Let's just wait a second.
Mhm.
Let's just take an, let's take an assessment of the situation.
Right.
And I always tell this story too, because my sister, she's a painter,
Mhm.
and she lives in Florida. She drives one of those vans.
Oh,
So I was like,
man.
it's a matter of time
Yeah.
for someone calls or talking to me and you're just driving. You're like, I'm just getting to work. It's like 5 a.m. So, but again, the education piece is so great because people want to help. And I
Yeah.
love that people in the community in Howard County,
Mhm.
agencies, partners, like, oh, I want to get involved. I want to help. What can I do? So the passion and the solidarity is there. So
That's
it's making
good.
sure people know, all right, this is where to get your information. This is where to help. This is what you can do. And this is where, like, trust professionals, like, give it, hand it off to them to know they're going to do the best that they can too.
Well, I'm definitely I'm excited at our possibility of connecting and partnering, because
course.
we have again our clean our solar
Right.
PV installation training
Mhm.
program that definitely your survivor is more than welcome to come, and it's at no cost.
Mhm.
So
Right.
that's a way that we can support your efforts, and definitely share the information and
Yeah.
have you come on and maybe talk to our students, just to let them know what's going on.
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
Of course.
And
And
even if
so,
there's somebody watching who might need the information, we have the hotline number that you can contact there right there on the screen. If you know of anyone, or you might be thinking you're seeing signs of human trafficking, you can call that number right there on the screen. It's 1-888 373-7888. And there's also some other hotline numbers there because, of course, with dealing with those type of experiences and situations, there will be, mental health, um, you know, things that you have to deal with. So you can feel free to call, or there's even an option to text that number if you're dealing with any of those issues as well. So, and we'll, like Cherie said, we'll get you more information on how to, other
Yeah.
resources.
And I
That's the
mean,
whole
I know
point of Kiss the
Ashton will take
Community
your
of
calls.
Resources. Right,
Love
Yeah,
exactly.
exactly.
Right.
So thank you so much for joining us.
Aw.
But before you go, we have some hot seat questions for you. This is
Okay, all
fun.
right. All right.
Alrighty. So, Virginia Beach or Ocean City?
Oh, let's see. I'm gonna say Ocean City.
Okay. A second chance at love or second chance at your career?
Oh my gosh! Right, that's
Loaded.
Hot seat.
yeah. You weren't kidding. I know. I'm like, oh,
Loaded.
I took my jacket off. Okay. So, all right, second chance of love or second chance of career? I'll go with love.
Okay. Would you rather only eat pizza for the rest of your life or only tacos?
Tacos.
Who was the first Disney princess?
The very first one, like a quiz or like a. I
Yeah.
believe it was Snow White.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
That was good.
The Spice Girls said if you want to be their lover, you have to do what?
Get with my friends.
Yes, okay. Would you rather have someone tell you a painful truth or a comforting lie?
Oh, painful truth.
Okay. Would you rather have the ability to time travel or teleport anywhere instantly?
Oh, I would teleport.
Okay. According to Beyonce, who runs the world?
Girls.
Okay. Would you rather never be able to shower again or never be able to brush your teeth again?
Oh gosh. Ooh, I'm gonna be okay. I would say I take care of my teeth, so I feel like I'll figure something else out. I'd rather not shower, but like you can have some issues if you don't figure.
Right. Okay. And last one. Where was Adele saying hello from?
The other side. Oh my gosh, that was great. I love that last one. These are great.
Thank you so much, and thank you for having fun with us. Before we leave, ways to support. I hope L'Oreal can pass the offering, please. Okay. And all that great stuff. But we want to announce. I don't know how many of you have been following us and over the course of over the years, but guess what? We are turning 10 this year,
Mhm.
a
Oh,
decade
congrats.
of impact, and we are super excited about to celebrate this. 9/25/25 is the day that it's going down. Okay.
Right, so save that date. Mark your
Exactly.
calendars.
And so if you've ever been to one of our events, and haven't had a party or a celebration, we used to have our yearly fundraisers prior to COVID. But right now we are planning this change. I mean, a decade of change. Going down 9/25/25. The tickets are going on sale in a week. So please get your coins together because this is an event you are not going to want to miss. And we even have sponsorship opportunities. And if you're interested in that, give us a call at 777-9677 or shoot us an email, and then we can talk about it. Okay. So I think that's it. Up next, We have
Yes, we have Sherman Braxton. He's a fire chief battalion officer. So we're gonna be talking about some fun things, probably some fire prevention things and things like that.
yes.
So of course,
Oh,
there's always things we need to be know and educated on. So
yes.
we're excited to have him come on
February
next Thursday.
15th.
Yes, not this coming Thursday, but the following.
Following
Every other
Thursday.
Thursday. Yes.
Exactly.
Yes.
And so that's going to be a really good show because again, we are educating the community about the do's and don'ts, especially it's been cold.
Oh, right.
And
Those
so
space
we need
heaters.
we need to know what
Mhm.
not to do.
Right.
But until then, life is short. So remember to forgive quickly, love truly, and kiss the community with your gifts. See you next time.